All right, my guest today on Finding Freedom, I'll introduce him in a moment. We'll be talking about the broken political system. Almost everyone agrees that it is broken, but there's questions about why and how to fix it. Today, we'll be talking about that the failure is not really because of ideology per se, but because of how the power is structured and what it could take to fix it going forward. Welcome back to Finding Freedom here on the Lions of Liberty Network. Great to have you here today. If you're watching this or listening to it, please consider subscribing to that service, either YouTube or Rumble or whatever podcast app you're on. We do appreciate it; helps us out greatly. And if you want to help us out more, you can drink the same coffee that I drink every day. You can go to foxandsons.com and get some delicious coffee. It's how I start my day every single morning. That's Fox and Sons. That's FONSONS.com for 15% off an order of $40 or more. You can support a like minded, freedom loving entrepreneur, Stephen Fox, and get some great coffee. Okay, let's bring in my guest for today. And my guest is Travis Misurell. And he is the founder of Fink. And we'll be talking about what that is and how it works. It's essentially working on a different approach to fixing what's broken in American politics. We'll be talking about power, representation, and why real reform starts with changing how people coordinate, not necessarily which party wins. So, Travis, thank you for joining me on Finding Freedom.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, yeah, let's start off talking about, I think everybody, agrees that our political system is broken. I think most people at least agree with that. And we're going to talk about the solution that you have, you've come up with. But before we get to that, a good place to start is with you. So my audience can get to know a little bit more about you, what makes you tick, what kind of brought you into this path where you've decided to take this enormous task of trying to fix our broken political system.
Yeah, sure. So, really didn't get political for me until really 2016. Before that, pretty much all my life, it was more of like a sociological perspective, psychological. I was always interested in different perspectives, how we all kind of see different realities based on our upbringing, based on our strengths and weaknesses, based on our traumas, things like that. Um, but all my life, I always felt like there's a better way to do things. My background's in like process improvement and like operational processes, which I did in like with businesses. Um, and so I saw government as kind of the operations that run our society. So it's not necessarily about like how strong or weak the government should be. It's about like the basis of what they should be doing is helping just create, communal structures that we can live through. Um, and so I always saw though, like I always talked to different people about their realities and perspectives, and I always saw certain common denominators that a lot of different people would agree on, no matter what they saw in the reality. Um, and then it was really 2016 when I saw mainly when it was like Bernie versus Trump got me more involved, both seeing how both of these like they had their populist talking points and way that they're speaking, whether they're truly populist or not is up for debate, but both of them were speaking as populists and gained a lot of attraction being anti-establishment. But then I also saw how both sides were treated by the status quo. So that's where I really started getting into politics. And then fast forward to about 3 years ago is when I really started building Think and this whole structure and organization.
Yeah, well, it's bringing up Trump and Bernie. I think that's That's a great way to tee things up because when Trump really entered, and he was in the political discourse before that. He'd run previously to 2016 with the Reform Party, but 2016 was most of the country's exposure to the political Trump. They've been exposed to the business Trump with The Apprentice and seeing that side. And most people loved that Trump, but when he started to run for president and started making declarative statements where you had to be on one side or the other, dividing people, that's really shaken our political structure. It continues to this day. Really dividing both sides. Not that there aren't other causes and other actors dividing our political landscape, but I'm interested to hear about Fink and what you're doing there. So, um, I think a good place to start is like when you began to put this together. What sort of a vision did you have for it? What was your outlook and your really driving force behind it?
Yeah, sure. So we're Fink Futures Now Coalition. We go by Fink. So really, the whole intro to this is like, so American democracy runs on outdated infrastructure, limiting the way we find candidates, compare options, coordinate actions,
Hmm.
so that allows money and party gatekeepers to control every step. So we're building new civic infrastructure for the digital age. Right now, we recently launched the Digital Politics Hub, where citizens can coordinate outside the rigged system, plugging into one network beyond two-party control. And when we're really building the initial people power, it's not about a reform idea or competing for attention. This is the infrastructure that gives all other solutions a fighting chance. And so ultimately, like, again, I'm an operations guy, process guy. And the way I saw it is like those wonderful solutions that exist in the world, but they're competing with each other. And then the status quo doesn't want any of those solutions to have any traction. So they're stomping out on all of that. And so what we really need is a shared infrastructure that is citizen owned. And so pretty much everyone that's not part of the status quo, not part of the establishment, should be able to use this shared infrastructure to plug in their own solutions, connect citizens directly with candidates and movements and journalists, all in one like kind of political one-stop shop that doesn't get manipulated. It's all objective information. It's a level playing field and gives these solutions, these good candidates, everything just a better chance to succeed and actually say, hey, this is what I'm about, citizen, and I don't need to raise millions of dollars to be seen, or I don't need to, get in bed with the establishment or the media or anyone to have a voice. I get a
Hmm.
voice. I get my first chance to speak and prove that I'm the right candidate or right journalist for you. Um, so that's kind of the vision. It's really about new civic infrastructure. It's not just handing a tool to America. It's really like building a new foundation, a new layer of politics for the digital age that makes sense for today's age.
So, what does this look like from a practical standpoint? You mentioned political candidates, journalists. Or is it like people will have profiles within it where you can visit and learn more? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so the end game goal is digital democracy. Right now, we have this hub is more of a coordination hub to get to that stage, but the final stage, kind of like a two-phase approach. The second phase is digital democracy, and the idea, one of the main flagship features that we're pushing for this is politician report cards, more than just a profile. So imagine that every citizen could put in their zip code. Here's all the candidates running for their district. Here's where they stand on policy issues. But then here's who's funding their campaign, where the money is coming from, what industry. Showing, making it easier to understand the conflicts of interest that are potentially there based on who's funding them. Um, Here's their promises, but do they actually fulfill their promises once they're elected? Usually, the answer is no these days. And so
Hmm.
we want to build a user friendly, easy form of accountability and transparency on the government side, and streamline it, make it easier for an average American to say who stands for what, who would best represent me, and then like basically be an easier way to decide who they want to support and ultimately vote for.
Okay. So but I like the idea a lot, especially when you talk about the funding, right? Because I think the funding from corporations, special interests coming in, to candidates. That's essentially what politicians do on the federal level, right? They get elected. First day they get to Washington, they start making calls to get reelected again. That's that's so much of what they do once they get to Washington is just maintaining that office. So by showing the American people, okay, here's Billy, the representative from I'm in Pennsylvania, from Pennsylvania. Um, he was elected. He's been in Washington for 6 years. Here's his biggest funders of his campaign. Here's how he's voted. Here's his campaign promises. Has he aligned with them? Is that kind of what we're talking about? Like taking all of this data and fitting it together, like in a dashboard type format.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
the funny thing is, like, a lot of this information is already public. It's just not user friendly. It's hard to distill it. So yeah, we already have that information. We just got to funnel it and make
Yeah.
it more friendly. Mhm.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Um, it's crazy that this hasn't been done yet to this point, really.
Right,
If you
right. Yeah, yeah,
when you start
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about it, but
Yeah,
um,
I've heard that before. So yeah, it's like, we want to build a better way of helping like, we want citizens to be able to choose their candidates in a more digital age friendly way. Like right now you
mhm,
could, get a good rating on a cheeseburger, your Uber driver, a movie, but you can't like look at ratings for a politician. It's
yeah,
it's
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 it's it's
so it's
crazy.
so outdated. Yeah.
Yeah, and Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, even to an extent,
Mhm.
they're very plugged in to the digital age. That's the way we look at things. Like you were just saying. We're rating our Uber drivers, our Uber Eats, whatever. Everything is you want to be able to see, what's history here, because that's how. I mean, in so much of this, like, of course, we still have in-person relationships, right? But I think young people today are so good at being able to look at someone digitally and being able to gauge, is this person full of it, or are they not, just based on their digital footprint. So it's yeah, this is definitely the way things are moving. I want to talk a little about what you have it would you have it think the framework, the up down framework. Can you kind of take us through, rather than left, right, up, down?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, so that's part of the digital politics lens. Like, so part of this is like not just again, it's not just a tech platform. This is like a new way to do politics, new way to do
Hmm.
politics in the digital age. So with part of that lens is up versus down. And so there's up serving candidates, and those are the candidates that serve big donors. They serve those that have more power than them to raise them in power. And so their strategy to grow in their own power is to feed into those that are more powerful than them, where down-serving candidates are more like the grassroots candidates, and they gain power by gaining voter support. Like, so they build a base and they try to focus more on small dollar donations, and they actually want to represent the voters because they want to gain a lot of voter support. They want you to like them and want to vote for them, not just hold your nose and vote for the lesser two evils.
Hmm.
Um, and so we've been testing this out, and we have different like thought exercises and stuff to help people understand it. But we want people to understand that this is the deeper issue rather than left versus right. It's really about, are they people first or power first? Um, and because like it almost wouldn't matter in Congress, even if like half Congress is Democrat, half is Republican, but they weren't bought out and they didn't answer the special interests and their biggest donors. They would find ways to compromise. Like, okay, how do we get the economy on track? How do we, get the deficit down? How do we, all the issues? Like, yeah, there's plenty where they're not going to agree, but there's still plenty that they would agree. There's so many areas that a lot of Americans do agree on, that they could just get past a whole bunch of different legislation and move us forward. And it's not so much that they're like, oh, we can't get the votes, Democrat versus Republican. It's like, that's the show they want us to see. That
Hmm.
they can't just say, like, they can't just turn to their voters and say, you know what? Well, I know I promised this, but I take a lot of money from this big donor, and if I give you what I promised, I'm not going to get that money anymore. So that's why I'm not going to do this for you. No, they can't say. They're going to say, oh, it's the other side's fault. We didn't get enough votes. And oh, is this one guy and he had a, he's in our party, but he had to vote the other way because of blah, blah, blah. Like, they're always going to have excuses. They're not going to tell you genuinely, like, oh, yeah, we're just bought out and that's why we're not doing what you wanted.
Hmm.
So, we want to help people understand that this is the bigger battle is like, are these candidates genuine? Are they actually serving you as a representative, or are they just serving their big donors and special interests? So it's first there's a lens to it, and then as we build out digital democracy, it'll be easier and easier to know where they stand on these issues, and start building like almost like a Rotten Tomatoes kind of a scoring and like democracy score, things like that makes it objectively proven. Like, okay, well they have a lot of conflicts of interest, or they don't have a lot of, they have take almost all small dollar donations. Um, so fundamentally in all of this is up versus down. We want to respect everyone's political beliefs. In this network that we're building, we have people from anarchists to socialists to centrist Democrats, traditional Republicans, some MAGA people. Like, we have people all across the board, and the proof is that if we're talking about just civic infrastructure and talking about this up-down problem, that most people could get behind it, and there's so little divisiveness in it, and we could actually aim towards some common goals without fighting like to the death, like we're doing today.
Yeah. The one thing that makes it difficult to analyze the voting of a politician is that the way that bills are constructed, they're written by these legal teams that, put together these 1,000-page bills, and they lump everything together. So you might have an ideological person on the right or on the left who they vote against it just because of one thing in the bill. But there might be other things in the bill that they support. And you have the flip side of it. You have people that vote for it because they're getting that one thing that they support. They don't care about the rest. So that's kind of an area I see that could be hard to actually give a grade on, or to present it in a way that it's telling the full story. Does that make sense? Is that something that is thoughts being put into?
Yeah, it's definitely that is one of the bigger challenges that we're going to see here. Like the direct conflicts of interest based on their funding, that's almost like eat a piece of cake.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's like, because like definitely what you're talking about, even like the way the bills are these days is so crazy. Like, there'll be an immigration bill and there's a marijuana policy
Yeah.
in that, it has nothing to
Hmm.
do with immigration. So yeah, it'll be challenging. We're gonna, like, as we grow this out, we want to have like do different kind of focus groups with like developers and political analysts, and like just trying to figure out what are the best ways to build an algorithm around this. Possibly have AI like trying to figure out how to create the most fair scoring of how this all breaks down. But so that is part of that's one of the harder parts. The money stuff and the conflicts of interest will be easier, and then that's stuff that's going to take a lot more collaboration and talking to citizens and specialists and all sorts of people. So
Hmm.
you're right. It is going to be a harder part of it.
So you're wading into the political realm. It's it's a den of thieves, right? I mean, on both sides, it's a dangerous place. Lots of special interests obviously involved. You're building this digital hub. Have I mean Protecting that from bias from the left or the right or from different special interests. Talking about bringing in people from the tech industry, bringing in using AI. How do you protect the tool itself from bias leaking in, sort of manipulating things?
Yeah. Great question. So first is the legal structures that we envision. So digital democracy, the tech side of it, is actually going to be citizen owned. So it's going to take a couple of years probably to really flesh this out. But we literally wanted that every American can opt into equal ownership stake of this technology. You either have zero of a share or you have one of a share. You can't buy more than one. So part of that is to set it up that no one could buy this out. Because like one of the key fundamental needs that needs to happen is that citizens have to stay in control of this. So big tech can't own it, Fink can't own it, the party gatekeepers can't own it. It has to be the citizens, or else we're going to just have an evolution of where we are today. Um, so we're already designing the legal structures to reflect that. So the tech is going to be citizen owned, Fink's going to be employee owned, like a employee owned nonprofit cooperative kind of a model. Um, so that's the legal. But to your point, I mean, there's always biases. We want to acknowledge like everyone has biases. I have biases. We all have biases.
Hmm.
We should strive to be as little biased as we can, at least in certain circumstances. Try to be as objective as possible. But we have to acknowledge that there is always a bias. And so another part of this is that we're not looking to just build a tool and then hand it to America. We literally want to build this with America. Like, we're on phase one right now. Before we even really dive too deep into building DD, digital democracy, we want thousands of citizens involved for oversight, their feedback. We're going to do polling, focus groups, different kind of studies. So we don't want to move too far without America in this in the at the table at that time. So that's part of it too, and then just making sure it's not lopsided, like one certain demographics overpowering other demographics. Just trying to make sure we have a good spread, a good sampling of what America looks like. Um, so those are some of the ways to work out some of the biases. I mean, the algorithms, like what we're talking about so far in this conversation, like the report cards, is not going to have too much bias because it's really just tracking like what money is tied to like what, where could that sway a certain policy. So if like, big oil is funding somebody, then yeah, maybe their environmental plans or oil plans are going to could be biased. And so a lot of that is not partisan. It's just objectively based on the industries and whatnot. But there's going to be a lot of pieces to this that could potentially have biases. And so it's just making sure you're weighing in, like just making sure everyone like this alignment of digital politics is important. Of like the up versus down. Like we're all coming to the table. We're not everyone building this should not be in their head like, oh, well, I want healthcare. I want to build this so healthcare goes this way, or immigration goes that way, or social issues go this way. Like, no, we're talking about civic infrastructure, how to make it transparent, easy for citizens to know who is doing what, where are their promises. All like it has nothing to do with the outcome of the policies themselves. That's once this is built and the stuff that lives inside of it does that stuff. Um, so those are some of the ways to work through the biases. And so and then ultimately, like if you do the algorithms right and AI, those things are not like you. The only bias is the humans that put the bias into them. So if you're careful with the technologies, they can be pretty non-biased to a far degree. Um, so I think those are some of the ways that we would be working on that. But bias is another one of like the top challenges that we're aware is going to be one of the hardest parts of all this.
Okay. So if people want to get involved, I'm looking at the website right now, futureis.org. That's the correct website, right? I see your tag there on Twitter. I assume is at futureis.org. If people want to follow you, but if people go to this website, and I see there's a call to action: put on the lens, join the meta movement, change the game. So how can people get involved right now if they click that button?
Yeah, so for the distinction, futureis.org directly is just our general website and like
Okay.
the overall mission. I think you're right now what you're saying is you're on hub.futureis.org. So hub.futureis.org, that's actually the hub that we're talking about, the digital politics hub. That's our call to action right now. So we just launched it this month. We're still building it out. We have a lot of upgrades coming just in the next like 2 weeks or so. But right away, there's a section for first you could add your name as a citizen architect. That's somebody that'll be able to have some oversight and feedback into building what comes next. And then also put your name there to be a future owner of this system. Everyone that's a citizen architect will be one of the first to own it legally. So that's part of it. But then there's micro actions, which is the way to spread word. I mean, basically right now we're at this coordination stage. It's about like letting people know that We're building something very unique, something that most people could stand behind, that plugs in all different solutions. You like the Forward Party, you like libertarians, you like the Green Party, you're a progressive trying to take over the Democrat Party. All of those are welcome into this system. All of this is going to be shared infrastructure, no matter what direction you want to take it. Long as you're not looking for the status quo and just keep everything the same old same, this is for you. Um, so the stage is about awareness. So there's the micro actions or ways that you could spread awareness over social media that this is the problem, money in politics, and then this is like our solution is this new infrastructure. And then there's sections where if you have a really good podcaster you like, and a journalist you like, a candidate you like, we're trying to get recommendations from citizens on trusted voices that you want to plug into this. Because there's a role that everyone plays, including journalists have a specific role that we have planned for them, candidates, movements, other political organizations. So anyone that knows of these groups, that knows somebody that you trust, plug them in. We're keeping track. We're contacting people that citizens recommend. If you know somebody directly, we'll be reaching out to you and trying to make the connection. So all in all, it's about coordination, spreading awareness, build out the people power on this, show there's a demand for building a better system. And then once we get to a certain pivotal, like what do you call it? Once we hit a certain critical mass, then we could really pull that trigger towards digital democracy. And then the tech side actually can move very quickly. It's more about like oversight and citizens owning it and keeping the right control. That we need to set up. We have to set up a really good foundation, and then the tech stuff could kind of like project very, very quickly forward. So in a nutshell, it's about coordinating right now, both on the hub and then the community space is our Discord. We're starting to integrate our hub and Discord as like the hub is more of like is actions to take, and then Discord is the community side of it, of like talking to other people about all this stuff. You could ask questions, things like that, communal stuff. So it's all about the hub right now. That there's different buttons and actions that you could take through the hub. You can learn more on the hub. And then that's going to be growing pretty exponentially in the next couple weeks.
Okay, I see at the bottom a fund the hub button. So that natural question, a little bit of skepticism. But kind of going back to my earlier question, how do you prevent somebody from kind of just buying this? Special interests.
Yeah, so with the legal structures, they can't. Like there's we're not taking any investors, no strings attached. Right now we're pretty much grassroots funded. I mean at this stage 100% grassroots funded.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get $5, $10 at a time, but from a lot of citizens. If somebody is going to give a little bit larger donation, it just has to be super transparent, but absolutely they cannot gain any form of influence on us. Ultimately want to stay almost entirely just small dollar donations. But anything bigger is going to be disclosed. But yeah, so there's no investments. No one can buy this. Again, everyone either has one, you either opt in, you get 1 share, or you didn't opt in and you have 0 shares. So no one can, no one can buy any kind of influence. They could if they want to know information or plan and strategy before they give us a larger sum of money, we're open to that, but they cannot say, oh, well, you have to, raise this candidate up or change an algorithm so this guy looks better. Nope. None of that ever. Everything falls apart the minute we allow anything like that.
Yeah, and that's why I had to ask, right? I mean, because that's the whole reason why you're building this. One of them is because the current system's been so corrupted. So that's good to hear. So with that in mind, along that same vein, one of the problems we have in our current system is we have incumbents. You can't get rid of them. They get in there, they're there forever. So you have somebody new come into politics. Maybe they don't have a big following. They're not super successful, but they have good ideas and, people like them and they're gaining traction, but they can't they don't have the platform to get those ideas out there. Does Fink help people like that to get their ideas out?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's part of the fundamental point of what we're doing is like like think about it. If all citizens are in one place, all candidates are in one place, they don't need the millions of dollars as much. Like right now, a average federal candidate needs several $1 million each election. Why? It's for advertising. It's that billboards, commercials, their ads and stuff. But like, if we just know we're going to one place, we're all going to digital democracy. We're going to look at all our choices. Everyone is going to be side by side. You're going to know who's on the menu. No one can buy a higher influence on the menu. Um, so the goal is to give them tools. Like that's even just a starting point. We're going to build in virtual town halls and just a lot of different ways so that any candidate can connect to their citizens. I mean, that's ultimately what we're doing is plugging citizens and candidates into one place so that they can speak. You don't have to go to door. You could go like the new form of door to door is social media now. And, there's going to be room on the platform, ways to bring this into other platforms that already exist, like Facebook and TikTok and everything. But the ultimate crux of this is like, we're building a cheaper, more efficient, user-friendly, objective, structured way to campaign differently now. That in some ways, it's like almost like politicians start using a more like influencer strategy, like the same way that our generations are moving from like TV media to podcasters. We like podcasters because they're more authentic and they're like doing it in their living room and they're more human and they're not all polished and fake and have their talking points. Well, the same attraction is for candidates that people actually want are people that are more genuine, and they just get drowned out by the money, the gatekeepers, and the media. And so we're basically building an alternative ecosystem to what already exists. So like instead of the establishment media, we want to interconnect independent journalists, podcasters, other influencers. Instead of the party leaders being in control, this shared infrastructure is the objective one that showcases everyone instead. So ultimately moving it from top down to citizen and bottom up of like giving every candidate visibility and a chance to prove that they are the right candidate. Because the last thing I'll say on this is like, it's horrible. Like what you're saying, the incumbent rates are insane. Like Senate is something like 95% chance of an incumbent getting reelected right now. However, their approval ratings are abysmal. They have like the lowest in modern history. Both sides have horrible approval ratings. So it's not that people like these people. It's just they're manipulated into a false choice that you have to vote for the lesser of two evils. And like, they both rigged the primary for their establishment approved candidates. So then your candidate that you would have liked never gets any visibility. So this completely changes the framing and the frame of reference an average citizen would have of like who's even in the race. You actually have a fair shot of like this is everyone in the race. It's not just the guy that spent millions of dollars or that the party leader shoved down your throat. This is everyone, and then everyone has a chance to rise in the ranks based on gaining your support as a citizen.
So you talked a little bit about the timeline. Excuse me. You talked a little bit about the timeline, and it's going to take some time to put this together. I forget the words you use, but at this stage, it's information gathering and putting things together. Once you have that, you'll be able to push out the tech relatively quickly. So what is the timeline? I don't think, based on what you're saying, that this is something that's going to be ready by the midterms. When do you envision it being ready for citizens to log on here and actually be able to get value and learn using the dashboard?
Yeah, so we are hoping it's not a guarantee, but we are hoping that we'll at least have some of it ready to roll for the midterms. Not the primary, but by the general of like some of the politician report cards, at least at a federal level. Probably also state. Local's a lot harder. But regardless, we are going to be building out some of the tools are going to be available even in the next like month or two. Like so, for example, like until we have digital democracy, that's where you'll be able to see like all your candidates side by side and all that. But even before that, we're starting to link up a lot of the resources that we are planning to plug in.
Mhm.
So for example, opensecrets.org is where a lot of people go to see the funding sources of candidates. It's not super user friendly, but it's there. Um, so even as we get to the midterms, we're gonna have like voter checklists of like what resources can you go. You could go to Open Secrets to find the funding. You could go to Unusual Whales to see insider trading in the stock market for Washington. So we're going to start plugging in like different places you could go, just making it a little bit easier to find this information, do checklists and like different ways you could still now amplify a candidate, amplify a journalist. So it's kind of like right now we have strategies where you go outside of us. The hub is like the center point, but you could go outside of us to amplify people on like you like a candidate, we're going to help you learn how to amplify them on TikTok and or Facebook and or YouTube. And that happens now. So it's kind of like right now we can amplify and build stuff where people exist today. And then once we hit that critical mass, then we migrate everyone into a new platform. But first we do it where they're at today using the
Mhm.
hub as like the guidance point and compass in some way. So to summarize, it's like there's going to already be some tools that people can use pretty much like right now, and then even a month from now, a lot better, a lot more tools. Um, but then we hope to have at least some of the politician report cards by the midterms. And then the biggest splash is really we want to make some influence this year, some like start making some ripples that people really start understanding what we're doing, understanding why we really do need a new system. And then we're really hoping to shine in the next general election in what,
Mhm.
like 2.5 years, is when we really have like a lot of the features, like all the basic, all the main features we want out. We're gonna have a people's primary, a new way to debate people, and all these new things would unfold by the next general election. Um, so those are kind of the timeline we're looking at. Part of it too that's unique is like a lot of what we're talking about is not something we have to build from scratch. There's already technologies that already exist in the world. Like there's different nonprofits that have like one organization has a polling method to poll like different districts on on different policy issues. Another one is building an app that helps people go through a contest to narrow down who they'd want to win
Mhm.
in the primary. So there's a lot of tech that already exists, and it's more about like working with them to plug everything into one overarching infrastructure, and that's going to end up being citizen owned. So that's part of why the tech will happen fast. But yeah, so that's the answer. Some stuff now, some stuff over this year. Hopefully report cards by this midterm, and then a lot more stuff in 2 years.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit ago about the importance of building the demand, right? Showing the demand for this this type of digital hub out there, which I think there will be demand, and this will grow over time as people become exposed to it. I'm kind of curious, like how is it going to be captured? Um, you know, how is that demand shown? Like, are citizens going to have their own account where they're logging into this site? Is it just based on the views and engagement that the site is getting, or the shares coming off of it? Because at the end of the day, like when I think back to the last presidential primaries, that just occurred, but 2 years ago now, where it was still most what to a certain extent it was the cable news or the network news still running the show with the debates. A lot more influence though, with podcasts and YouTube influencers, things like that, getting obviously more influence than ever before. And I think that'll continue. But I think, like, for example, just kind of where I'm coming from with this question, kind of rambling, but when you think about like the next presidential election, so for candidates to want to come to use and to try to make this an area where they give their attention, where they participate in the town halls you're talking about and debates, is right. It has to show that there is an audience there. So how is that done? How's that going to be demonstrated?
Yeah, great question. So right now, I mean, we already gonna have everyone doesn't have like a sign in yet. That will happen down in hopefully in the next couple months. But we are tracking everyone's building their impacts. So for example, like right now, the first thing we ideally want people to do is put their name in there, their name and email, as a citizen architect, just kind of signing their name that yes, I support this, I want this to be a thing. If this exists, I'm going to be paying attention to it, all that kind of thing. Um, so that's the first step. Either way, is like kind of almost just signing your name. But then we're also tracking all the impact you want to do on our hub can be trackable. So like if you do certain micro actions, if you put your email every time, it's going to build a history of, oh, you did these kinds of actions. And if you recommended different people, it's going to track like, oh, like this person in the last month, you recommended 2 journalists and one candidate, and you even emailed that candidate. So even before we have a login kind of a system, we have like a way to track your history that can get emailed directly to you as you request it. Um, and so that, anonymously, we don't need to give the names and emails to anyone, but we could show like, look at how many people are involved, what they're doing with us. So that's the internal way, is showing how involved people are. Are they doing micro actions? Are we, if we post if we post a really important clip, do we get, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to share it? So there'll be a very clear way to show that kind of a engagement. That'll be the core, like the deepest form of engagement. And then beyond that is more of our social media presence, the small dollar growth. If we could raise a lot of money but still stick to like a small dollar donations, like a lot of grassroots organizations or grassroots people organizations have like their average dollar donation. Like kind of the smaller your donation number is, like your average donation, it actually is a good thing. So if your average donation is $15, that's good. If you have your average donation is like $500, that means you have mostly wealthy people.
Mhm.
Um, so that would be a factor. And then the last piece is that really we're working on like the social media world first, because there's a huge gap we've noticed. We talked to a lot of reform groups and candidates. There's a huge gap between influencers, podcasters, even independent journalists, and then the rest of the political world is so separate from each other. And like there are different sides, and we want to merge them into what comes next. And our main focus, even before we're even worried about individual candidates, is really building a relationship with the podcasters and independent journalists, those that already have a social media presence. We want to integrate them into this first, and that helps with the buy-in. Like you said, that
Mhm.
podcasters and journalists do influence elections, and they're going to do it more and more. They're going to influence it more. And we have like kind of a win-win scenario of them that you know, like have them start talking about what we're doing, have them integrate them, have them start posting their own content on our hub at this stage, and then eventually digital democracy. Um, so to summarize, it's basically like we want to build these relationships with the influencers, podcasters. Our big moments are going to be when we have like anything from like a Joe Rogan to like a Young Turks, a Humanist Report, anything from any side of the aisle that like rep like known people that not everyone, a lot of people are going to hate them, a lot of people are going to love them, but they're all looking for change, looking for something different. If we could get interviews with them and start engaging bigger and bigger influencers, that is part of our credibility. And then as they showcase us and have us on their shows and bring attention, that also will add an influx of supporters and additions to everything. So it's a very, very social media heavy approach that we want to reach out and get people through a social media strategy in a deeper way than most politicians have done at this stage. And it's proven like, we're still in the smaller numbers, but like Gen Z millennials, they totally light up when we talk about this. Like so many of them, they never even voted, but I have people volunteering for us for over a year that they're
Mm.
just so in love with what we're doing. Like never touch politics, but they'll volunteer for this because this is something they could actually believe in. And so the more we prove that, it's going to gain a lot of attention that this is the solution forward for everyone. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm definitely I'll be, you know, clicking around the site, signing up as a citizen architect. I encourage my audience to do the same. Just, tell my audience where to go one more time. Any other plugs that you have, or Any parting words?
Yeah, sure. So in general, our handle on social media is at futureis.org. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, a couple others you can see on our website. The website itself, the general information is futureis.org. If you go to hub.futureis.org, that's the hub we're talking about. There's also a link at the top of our homepage. There'll be more and more buttons. Again, we just launched it like literally like not even like 2 weeks ago. So it's still a little bit in development, but yeah, so hub.futureis.org. That's the main call to action for you to take. Yeah, sign your name in there. Definitely keep updated. Again, even in just a few weeks from now, you'll notice new changes. It's still getting full blast. We haven't even done a full campaign to like announce this like through all our social media yet. We're just telling podcasters and our newsletter people. So it's going to grow very quickly. Over the next couple weeks, there'll be more actions to do. It'll make more sense. There'll be a little bit better direction for people to know. Like right now, I know it's a little bit of more just kind of clicking around and more curiosity that we need from everyone. But even like 2 weeks from now, there'll be a lot better direction of like how to take a journey through learning what we're doing and then playing a part in it. So in a summary, just hub.futureis.org and check it out now. Put your name, but then also keep making sure you're checking on it every week or two, and you'll see some major updates in 2 weeks to a month. You'll see a lot of good stuff brewing there, and it'll also connect you to Discord as well if you wanted to communicate and converse with other people around all this stuff.
Well, Travis, I love the idea. I think it's awesome what you're doing. I think it's definitely a something that's necessary, and I think it has a really, really good chance of working. And I just can't wait to check back in. I'll follow it as we go along here, but to kind of watch this thing evolve and grow, I think it's going to be amazing. So, thank you for the work you're putting in, and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a great conversation.
Alrighty, that is a wrap for today's episode of Finding Freedom. I want to thank everybody for listening or watching. And I want to encourage you, go to hub.futureis.org. Like Travis said, click around, sign up, become a citizen architect, get involved, see what it's all about. And if you're like me, you're probably curious. You want to see where this thing goes. So if you want to see where it goes, take part in it. I encourage you to do that. And if you like what we're doing here at Lions of Liberty, as always, be sure to subscribe. And if you really like our content, content from myself, from Brian McWilliams, from Lou Perez, from Brian Nichols, join us. Join us on Patreon or Locals. Become a member of the Politics, our supporter group. And be sure to subscribe to our newest show, the Politics Podcast. That's ticks spelled like the blood-sucking insect, Ticks. So check it out. With that being said, everyone, I'll be back again next week with another great episode. In the meantime, always remember to keep your head up and those fires of liberty burning.